Can't buy me love, love. Can't buy me love. I'll buy you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I'll give you everything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love. Can't buy me love. Everybody tells me so. Can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Oh! Hey everyone, welcome to MT Guitar. Today we're doing Can't Buy Me Love by the Beatles. So this appeared on A Hard Day's Night, both the album and the movie. It was sort of a follow-up to their American success, specifically I Want to Hold Your Hand. It was their 6th single. This is definitely a Paul song. In fact, it's the first single where it's just one person singing. It's just Paul singing doubled, and they didn't have harmonies. They were sort of messing around with harmonies, and they thought, you know what, no, we don't need that. They were sort of coming off the heels of their big success in America after the Ed Sullivan Show and their first 2 albums, Please Please Me and With the Beatles. But we know a lot of bands struggle after their first success, right? It makes sense logically. You have all this time to release, your breakthrough stuff, and then you're pressured immediately, okay, what's the next thing from the labels? And if anything, this happened even more so to the Beatles in terms of pressure, right? It's like, go, 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 we need the next hit now. So much so to the point where the Beatles were recording in France. Quite an interesting story. They were doing She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand in German. The Beatles were hard workers. They were going to do anything that really would help their success. So they actually brought in a translator and sang both of those songs in German. But anyway, when they were there, Paul had a piano rolled into the hotel and he wrote this song. And so I just want to applaud the Beatles, to just keep writing hits after the pressure of, okay, you got some great hits, keep it going. A lot of times, as we know, bands they can't do that, to that level. And the Beatles, if anything, they just got better and better. Their writing continued. They continued to evolve and grow. So just, I TA'd for the Beatles class at USC, and the things I learned about their work ethic, and it's not an accident how famous they were. So let's talk about the music theory of this. There's a 12-bar blues going on, and I'll say that it's not super common for the Beatles to use the 12-bar blues. They would cover songs with 12-bar blues, like Rock and Roll Music by Chuck Berry and all that, and Roll Over Beethoven, but writing the 12-bar blues is not something that they did a lot. They tended to veer towards more the pop songwriting style and even R&B. Not as much with the blues. So here we go with Paul McCartney writing this beautiful 12-bar blues. And of course, Paul's doing the bass line, right? And people teach this as if it's just a C7 the whole time, but you can see John Lennon in the live versions play with this ring finger going down. What I got, I'll give to you. But I don't get too much for money. Both John and Paul, no surprise there, they were in lockstep on this, right? He's going C7 and then lifting to G. George is sort of the lead, of course, and so what we're going to do is we're kind of combine John and George's parts. Basically, George is just accentuating the accents. But I love this quote from Paul on the anthology when they were talking about the early days of the Beatles before Ringo, even before Pete Best. And Paul would say things like, the rhythm's in the guitars. It's a wonderful saying because John and Paul and George had spent thousands and thousands of hours playing guitar together. I mean, it's just amazing. And their groove and feel was so good. Mostly because of, I think, really their time in Hamburg at the Kaiser Keller and the other places they played at, as well as the Cavern Club. They just put thousands and thousands of hours playing. By the time Ringo joined, who was, arguably a much better drummer than Pete Best, it was like there was just no stopping them. Their groove was set down pat. So we want to focus on the groove, and John and George are both just monster guitar players. John doesn't get the credit he deserves with rhythm guitar. So we have a 12-bar blues. So here's the C7 for 4 bars, F7, and then back to C7, 4 chord to 1 chord. Now the turnaround, stop, 4 chord. So a slight variation on the end of the turnaround there in terms of a normal 12-bar blues. But there you go. And then George's solo was actually written out beforehand by request of Paul. And, just nice vibrato on the bend there. But last thing I want to mention before we zoom in and learn is that Paul's melody is in minor. So this is a great example of blues language. We don't necessarily just want to play major all the time over a blues. So here you have a C7, and Paul's singing. So this is an E flat. That's not in this chord. We have an E natural in the chord. It would sound very different if he'd sang it major, It would almost sound a bit British, right? The Beatles were really interested in American sound, American rock and roll, American blues, R&B, girl groups, Motown, everything. Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles. They worshipped it. So you can see them in their live versions. They're really feeling themselves, so to speak, partially because they were really the first British band to ever make it. And they did it by really listening to American music very closely. So there's my Beatles spiel. Go ahead and check out the Patreon where there'll be a full, tab and chord sheet of this song. And I really appreciate your support there. Go ahead, subscribe as well. Hit the bell icon and the thumbs up. Let's go ahead and learn this. So for the intro here, it's actually composed by George Martin, the 5th Beatle. He knew that they needed a real short chorus, a shortened version of the chorus to get them to the verse. So let's start there. We're going to have E minor to A minor. I'll show you the strumming pattern that I've come up with here. Okay, now John may be doing different variations, but if you combine John and George's part, that's essentially what you get. So E minor, and we're going to go down, down, up, down, up. There's a slight swing to it, all right? Slight blues shuffle to it. Down, down, up, down, and then A minor. Repeat. And then F6, all right? So a couple ways to do this. The way they did it, and I'm doing it, you put your thumb over. That's not for everyone, so I'll show you an alternative you can do. But thumb over, and then skip the 5th string, or mute it, more precisely, and then 3, 2, 3, 1. So you don't really need to bar the first finger at all. It's just the first string that it's on. And then you just go up a whole step to G6. So this is F6 to G6. If that's not for you, you can simply do this, and you're basically getting, very, very close to it. The only difference is you have the 4th string ringing out, so it's like an F13. But honestly, it's barely noticeable. And actually, if you just don't push super hard on the bar, then you get a true F6 because it mutes the string automatically. But it's a fine line. So I would do this if you can. It's what they're doing, and it's not too hard with the pinky here. With the F7, it is hard because then you need sort of the palm open. So then actually you'll see John playing F7 like this, not like this on the F6 where he's got the thumb over. So that pinky on the 4th fret on the F7 later makes a big difference, all right, for the thumb. But for now, we're doing the thumb. So let's run the intro nice and slow. E minor, A minor twice, F6, G6, okay? Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, E minor, A minor. Here's the F6. Okay? All right, next we have the verse. And here's a great example of a strong quarter note groove. Something I think probably more players should focus on. It's not just thinking, oh, it's a down strum each time only. It's you're grooving on a quarter note. And you notice that I'm going down more on the 2nd and 4th beat. So that's part of the groove thing. I'm grooving with the drums, just as John and George were. Right? Because you want to match with that backbeat. So On a C7 here, we're going to go down, down, with the second beat being a little bit accented. And then you just slide your ring finger to the 3rd fret, 6th string for C7 over G, and repeat. Now you can add an occasional up strum, and it would sound like this. Then, when the phrase is done, we add some up strums. So, feel alright. So that would be down, down, up, down, up. So let's run those 4 bars of C7 with a strong emphasis on the 2nd and 4th down strums, and then adding some up strums whenever we feel like it, and especially when the vocal phrase is done. 3, 4. If you diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright, down, up, down, up. Okay? F7. We pretty much mimic the strumming pattern, but just on an F7. I give you. This time we're not really worrying about the bass. It's true that Paul is going like this, but to try to find that 6th and 5th string with the strumming is way too detail oriented, right? We don't want to take away from the groove, and you don't want to do that. Just strum the whole F chord, all right? So on the F7, same thing. I give you everything I know, and then back to C7, yeah. Okay, so now the G7, 4 downs. I don't care to, right? So that's it. I don't care to. Now F7 and once and stop. Much for money, and then we stop for the rest of that phrase, and then pick it up here. Money don't buy me love, can't buy me. Okay, and then you're back to the C7. Can't buy me. And again, it's down, 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 up to lead us into the chorus. All right, so let's run the entire verse nice and slow. Ready? 3. I'll give you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. F7, yeah, 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 if it makes you feel alright. Here we go. I don't care too much for money. F7, buy me C7, and da-da-da. All right. Now on the chorus, we not only want to be louder because it's the chorus, but it's open chords so they can ring out more. So it works out really well. So we're going to do E minor. Obviously, it's the same as the intro, but as far as the beginning, but then it's elongated. So, can't buy me E minor. Same pattern as the intro. But then we go to the C7 and it's the quarter note groove. Money can't buy me love, can't buy back to the year. And then F6 just like the intro. So the whole chorus, 3, can't buy me love. You know, I should say, you can add an up pickup before the E minor. So not on the intro necessarily, but on the chorus, you can add, so it would sound like this. 3 and 4. Okay, adds a little bit of rhythm pickup. So I'm going to do that. All right, so ready? Let's try it again. 3, can't buy me love. Here is a C7, yeah, and back to here. Oh yeah, F6 and G7, G6. Sorry. Then we back to another verse. The only thing left to learn is the solo. Okay, classic minor pentatonic, and you know, it's a kind of tricky to do it the bend on an acoustic, so you could just slide it up if you want. I'm going to do it because I'm a little bit crazy and I like to torture my fingers on acoustic. I like to bend. So it's up to you. You also might be learning this on an electric, in which case it'll be a lot easier. Quick disclaimer, George did it here, but you can't bend a G string on an acoustic. All right. So that's the first position pentatonic. So no surprise there. But I'm going to do it here because I can bend the B string on an acoustic. So, all right. So 5th fret, 3rd string, 4th fret, 2nd string, 6th fret, full note bend. And you want to vibrato it. Then hit it again, 3rd time. Then 4th time, unbend. Pull off to 4, back to 3rd string, 5th fret, and then back to 4. Okay, so that first phrase is. And then we bend again. And then 2nd time, and then 3rd time. And then, you know, you do the same exact thing as before. You pull, unbend, pull off, back to here, then 3rd fret. Then you go, interesting move here, 5th fret, 4th string, and you bend it a little bit, unbend, pull off, slide down to 1st fret. So that would be, okay? Kind of a tricky move, to be honest. But that's it. So then we do an F triad. George knew his triads, right? And people say the Beatles didn't learn theory. Yeah, but they knew everything because they learned 300 covers, right? They knew all the triads. So 3, 2, 1 on the F triad here. So that would be down, 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 up. Okay? And then on the downbeat of the next bar, back to the band. And we do 4 bends. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the 4th one, just pull off and go back to home. Okay? Now the turnaround. George knew how to play a blues turnaround. All right, so that turnaround sounds like this. All right, so that would be 5th fret, slide up from 3rd fret. Okay, then slide down to 3rd fret, pull off to 1, 3, pull off again, 1, 3, and then 1, 3 to 5 slide. Nice little blues lick here, right? Slide to 5, 3, 3rd string, and then 5 to 3 slide again. Pull off to 1, 3, pull off 1, 3. So the whole thing would be 1, 2, 3. Bend, 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 da, da, da. Okay, so there you go. There's the solo. Of course, it's on the tab as well on the Patreon. And you might want to check out the chord sheet where you can just sing along with the melody, with the chords and the strumming. So there you go. It's such fun to play early Beatles songs. They don't get enough credit. I mean, I know the Beatles, they get a ton of credit all the time, but everyone focuses on the later stuff, which I love. I like to focus on some of the early stuff because they were sharp, man. I mean, they were playing so many live shows and writing so many hits in the early days. So of course, I love the later songs as well, and I'll continue to teach those. Enjoy. Remember to always have fun. You know, don't take it too seriously here on the Beatles. Throw in your own strumming variations or whatever you want to do. And enjoy. See you next lesson.